During the week, an excerpt from Isaiah kept running through my thoughts. And we heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and whom will go for us?" Then the parish of St. Mark's rose up and said, "Here we are, send us." During the week preceding Mayfair, volunteer shortages began to disappear, cars of volunteers for setup began to fill the parking lot, donations flooded Morrill Hall, and tents began to go up. It was a pretty amazing weekend. Even some crusty Mayfair veterans were amazed by the stage and events that took place on our campus this weekend. The entire week was a whirlwind of activity created by so many people engaged in the building up the body of Christ through our Christian mission. There was a palpable feeling of love and fellowship for one another in the air yesterday. The love and hope for the members of the Pivot Ministry on their journey, the unwavering faces on the volunteers willing to do anything at any time to fill in and get things done, and the smiles on the faces of the department chairs as they were putting out their many brush fires. That popped up. This weekend, our parish and the greater New Canaan community were reminded that St. Mark's Mayfair is a signature event in our community. And this signature event is not just about the happiness of families enjoying a day on the great lawn, but demonstrating the commitment of this parish and church to its mission of Christian love, caring for one another and helping those in need. When you step back and think about all the moving pieces that have to come together to put on Mayfair, it can be a bit intimidating. Preparing a lunch for a modest gathering of 80 volunteers, coordinating the participation of 8 different community service groups and civic groups, smoking 500 pounds of pork butt, pricing 600 plus household items. We as a parish came together during the building of the body of this church. Since October of last year, we set an objective to recast how Mayfair was organized and managed. This was manifest in the formation of the Mayfair Executive Committee. The committee worked with their respective department chairs to recruit new leadership, make Mayfair operations more efficient, less stressful, and also to control costs. The result was on display this weekend. If I may, I'd like to introduce to you the members of the Executive Committee and ask them to come up front as I call them. Cindy Tunham. Cindy was in charge of White Elephant, which comprises fine goods, toys, outdoors, furniture, linens, lamps, rugs. What else? What did I miss? She added musical instruments this year, and Christmas, and artwork. I think we got it, right? 16. I'd also like to introduce her better half, Eric Tunham. I'm getting coached. I was coached all year. Eric's in charge of operations. This was everything that anyone else forgot, basically. The setup, the PA system, working with utilities. It was a massive job. And again, anything that fell through the cracks, Eric caught. George Wright. Where are you, George? George is in charge of logistics. And you saw it on display, the tents, the idea of bringing in 2 large tents to cover the food court and to cover the Holy Smokers and the seating area, which was brilliant and really put on display and made this event really, really wonderful for everybody to come and linger and enjoy the afternoon. George is also in charge of all of those civic groups, the CERT. He was in charge of making sure that the porta potties were here on time. He had all of that. He had the tents, he had the porta potties. What else did we have? We had you name it, George had it, and the technical areas and all of the infrastructure that really had to go up at that point. Is Mary Verteen here tonight? I don't know. I think she's on volleyball. Mary Verteen was in charge of communications. She was in charge of our website, in charge of relations through social media. She also took on, with Gabby Beecher, the sponsorship. So if you noticed on some of the rides, we sold sponsorships for the ride. So if you went up to, I think it was the Crazy House, it had, brought to you by the New Canaanite, brought to you by Carl Chevrolet, the pony rides. So she did an absolutely fantastic job of taking a new idea and making it work. Is Jen Laddick here? Jen, there you are. Jen was on the executive committee, and her scope was venues and attractions. So she had the dog show, the children's games. She had the, what else would you have? You had the plant tent, the face painting, the pony rides. So she really had a lot to cover in terms of the setup, and she was quite busy. But a huge, huge impact. Oh, and also working with Margot Bright and Thorsheim for setting up the Pivot Ministries, the town band, and of course I mentioned before the dog show. All right, is Karen Rubel here? Karen? Among many times. Karen was in charge of volunteer management. So she was tirelessly working to recruit you all. She worked on our volunteer management software system that was part of our website. And she worked with the community service groups. She worked to make sure the department chairs were filled and that any open areas and the transfer over to the information booth, which my bride took over, went very, very smoothly. So when volunteers came up, they knew where to go. They had name tags ready. And everybody seemed to have what they needed to get things through. So let's see, who am I missing? No. Jen? Oh, Deb Lukes, I'm sorry. Where is Deb? Deb, are you here? All right. Deb was in charge of food and beverage, and that covers a lot in Mayfair. She had the Holy Smokers under her wing. God bless you for that. Hot dogs, hamburgers, beverages. She had strawberry shortcake under her wing, and ice cream and the pizza truck. So we tried some new ideas this year to reduce the amount of stress and increase the margins. But one thing Deb and I talked about was who else can manage 1,100 hot dogs, 800 hamburgers, 520 pounds of pork, 480 pounds of beef brisket, God knows how many pickles, and was 1,000 bags of potato chips, and coffee. Don't forget the coffee and baked goods too, that's right. So anyway, I'm sorry to take so long, but I wanted to introduce you to the executive committee that was really responsible for the execution of probably one of the best Mayfairs we had. Now, a couple of things. As Father Peter said, we do have a sale going on in Morrill Hall. Jewelry, plants, housewares, furniture, come in, make a bid. Please return name tags and t-shirts if you have them. We'll put some things out during the upcoming weeks to remind you. And now, we'll talk about the number. It's not in final yet, and I want to give you a number, and I also want to give you some context. It is exceeding $300,000. And we're on our way to a new record. Now, let's put it in context. That's gross. And all of you finance whiz kids know it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So we still have to pay for the food, the 1,100 hot dogs. We have to pay for the tents. We have to pay for the security, the police. So let's keep that in context. When you go in town and people say, how'd you do? You said, it could be a new record. We haven't paid our bills yet, so we don't know. But anyway, it's up to you. I'm not trying to do that. And then in terms of doing well, Catherine Pike and her Crosses for Ukraine, sitting out front, sold 60 crosses and netted over $740 for the Ukrainian relief. So with that, I bid you happy Mayfair and happy Mother's Day. Thanks to all.